Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to another Quran study. Today we'll be reading from Surah 33, verse 37. Let's all seek refuge in God from Satan rejected. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Recall that you said to the one who was blessed by God and blessed by you, keep your wife and reverence God, and you hid inside yourself what God wished to proclaim. Thus you feared the people when you were supposed to fear only God. When Zayd was completely through with his wife, we had you marry her in order to establish the precedent that a man can marry the divorced wife of his adopted son. God's command shall be done. So tying into the last verse, we see it was Muhammad, the man, that made the error in this regard, where he feared the people more than fearing God. But of course, this was, he corrected this and he proclaimed what God wished to command, because God's command is ultimately going to be done. And, not the people, or despite the people, or what some people may disagree upon. But God is, teaching us something here that, and reminding us that we should only fear Him and not fear any humans, even if it, from the worldly sense and perspective, like, even if they're great in numbers or something, or, there's social pressure and stuff like that. But when we really think about it, it's something we have to overcome, so, and this is in regards to an adopted son, so it's not the genetic son, because in another area in the Quran it also says genetic son, such marriages are, prohibited and not to be had, so God's command shall be done. And this is who knows best other than God? So despite what, people, or society norms might be, like in this country with, marriage of the cousins, we know that's not a direct prohibition, because we have what's prohibited in the Quran and in the Final Testament, so, you can't say, and this is all proven by mathematics too. This is mathematically proven beyond the shadow of a doubt. So there's no argument when it comes to this stuff with people. But it is something that it's a good reminder for us that proclaiming what God commands us to is an important duty. And we can see, Muhammad the messenger did all of that. He was very honorable in that sense as well. So moving on to verse 38, the prophet is not committing an error by doing anything that is made lawful by God. Such is God's system since the early generations. God's command is a sacred duty. Those who deliver God's messages and who reverence Him alone shall never fear anyone but God. God is the most efficient reckoner. Alhamdulillah, we should only fear God and reverence God alone. And it's, letting us know, even for those who deliver God's messages, and this applies, to me, it also, it also applies to like decommissioned messengers. So if we're giving somebody the message, or even a congregation of people or something that have deviated from the religion or even deviated from submission, they, it takes a lot of courage to stand up and go against the grain in this respect, but God will help, the sincere submitters in carrying something like this out. And, we also, in verse 38, things that are made lawful by God, the prophet's not committing any error. So if people think that it's coming from the prophet or the prophet's opinions or the messenger or something, these people are just simply astray, and they lack the guidance to know that this is God's system, right? It's been the same since the early generations as well. And, whatever God's command is, it's a sacred duty that should should be carried out, and it is carried out by God's messengers and prophets. Subhanallah. Verse 40, not the final messenger. Muhammad was not the father of any man among you. He was a messenger of God and the final prophet. God is fully aware of all things. So this is an important verse, and this is a verse that, we have a clear distinguishment of messenger and prophet. So this has a footnote. I'll go ahead and read. Despite this clear definition of Muhammad, most Muslims insist that he was the last prophet and also the last messenger. This is a tragic human trait, as we see in Surah 40, verse 34. Those who readily believe in God realize that God sends his purifying and consolidating messenger of the covenant after the final prophet Muhammad. And that's Surah 3, verse 81, and Surah 33, verse 7. And then there's another footnote. So, this is, even with, in Surah, I don't know if it's in Surah 12, but it's about Joseph. They thought he was the last. They really thought he was the last messenger and prophet, and no one was going to come after him. But we can see, this is a tragic human error to think or just to even make up stuff, because it doesn't say anywhere that Muhammad was the final messenger. And there's a clear distinction between these two, and even in Arabic words. But when it comes down to it, we have to, these people eventually see and realize, the ones who have rejected, the messenger of the covenant and fought against him. And, so this stuff will be, made known and come to pass. O you who believe, you shall remember God frequently. You shall glorify him night and day. You shall glorify him day and night. So that has a footnote as well. Your God is whatever occupies your thoughts most of the time. Hence the commandment to commemorate God and glorify him day and night. See Appendix 27. Yeah, so this is a very important, this is a commandment from God to glorify him. Not because God needs, or, human beings' glorifications, but we need it. And it's for our own happiness and for our own contentment, peace, satisfaction, and all these good things, because it helps the soul. And this is a criterion, that distinguishes people, because if you ask a lot of people, who do you worship or what is your God, they might say, usually most of them will just say God. Some of them might say Muhammad or Jesus or something like that. But for the most part, like people who have some type of quote unquote monotheistic religion, and I'm saying that because most of the religions today, they have some type of idol. But if they have some type of belief in that type of religion, they claim that their God is God. But if you just sit with these people or stay with them through the day, you'll notice that rarely do they think about God, or when they do, it's only going to be like on Sunday or something when they go to church, or maybe a few times during the day for a few minutes or something, and same with the Muslims, they don't, obviously they're worshiping idols, which is without making God their God on top of that. We have in the verses here that tell us how to make God our God, and we have remembrance like zikr through the day and through the night. He is the one who helps you together with his angels to lead you out of darkness into the light. He is most merciful towards the believers. So God helps us through his angels and leads us out of darkness into the light. And imagine being in like a dark room, and you have you don't know where the door is or the exit, and you're trying to get out, and the only one that can help you is God. And so it's kind of like this, metaphorically in a way. It's as at one point, I'm sure we were all in darkness and some type of idol worship, and God is the one who helps us. And I mean, even now, He protects us with His angels, as the Quran tells us. There's angels that guard us, and His mercy, He's most merciful towards the believers. So attaining His mercy is one of the best triumphs or attainments, especially on the day of resurrection. So this is stuff to strive for and towards. Their greeting the day they meet Him is peace, and He has prepared for them a generous recompense. So this would be like the best thing to look forward to. We can only imagine how nice and wonderful this would be. And so, it's gonna be full of peace, God willing. If we work hard and we make it, and we're told these things will come to pass. And so this is the best triumph, and this is the thing to work the hardest for in this life. Because we can see a lot of people that think they're being very productive, right? And they're going after this worldly thing and doing these, all these things, which is, it's not a bad thing in the sense where if God is your God and you're all that comes as a byproduct of worshiping God. But if it's your main priority, as we see with most people, they're not going to have this type of greeting. They're gonna, if they fail to neglect or grow their souls, and they neglect their souls, they're not gonna have this, gracious, wonderful meeting, or green greeting. They're gonna have something a lot worse. Verse 45: O prophet, we have sent you as a witness and a bearer of good news, as well as a warner, inviting to God in accordance with His will and a guiding beacon. Deliver good news to the believers that they have deserved from God a great blessing. All of God's prophets and messengers are as we're told throughout the Quran, they bear good news, but they also warn the people. It's both of those are important for people. Because both, what's the day of judgment, which is inevitable, and what's coming, and the situations, every human, as well as jinn, got themselves in, is something of a serious matter. It's not trivial. So inviting to God, in accordance with His will, this is a beacon. This Quran is a beacon for the believers, and it's a huge blessing too. Sometimes it's hard to just fathom or comprehend, but it's a book. It's the ultimate book of ultimate wisdom and guidance, and just like you would need a beacon or some type of structure or something on land, or maybe even on sea, in order so you know where to go, or it's some type of way to have understanding around you about your environment and stuff. This is what this book is to the highest degree. So and we're told here too that there's good news for those who believe. They deserve from God a great blessing. So this is stuff to look forward to, and also stuff to keep us diligent and keep us on our toes and on our feet, and working hard and striving and in our submission to God alone and development of the soul. 48. Do not obey the disbelievers And the hypocrites disregard their insults and put your trust in God. God suffices as an advocate. So yeah, at the time of the messenger and the prophets, there's these people that are around them, and that would even go as far as to insult. As we know too, even with the messenger of the covenant, there was rude people, ugly people to him that tried to undermine the messenger. And these people were called out by the messenger, but these, their insults, were only to the detriment of their own souls. So, this is a reminder even for us too. It's a verse for us, of course, that we should put our trust in God, and despite what people, the insults you could hear from people or from other religions, we put our trust in God and know that God is running everything. And so if you maybe face some type of persecution or insult, you could look at it in a way where that could be a credit for you, if you continue to strive. And these people get enraged and stuff, and it also, these people could be really evil people too, and so the retribution in the hereafter is going to be increased because of this stuff. So that's a way for them to have their punishment multiplied manifold. So God is the best advocate. So this is he lets us know that, reminds us of these things, so we can, it strengthens our hearts. Verse 49, Bismillah. Marriage laws, excuse me. O you who believe, if you married believing women, then divorce them before having intercourse with them. They do not owe you any waiting in term before marrying another man. You shall compensate them equitably and let them go amicably. So yeah, these are marriage laws that we have in the Quran, and they're to be followed. These aren't just, they're not just in here for for people to disregard. And we know, today's Muslims, and the traditional Muslims, completely disregard most of the laws in the Quran, if not all of them, based on their hadiths and stuff. And we can see all the problems and corruption and issues that they have in their countries and stuff, and in their religion, and because they violated their this book, and this is all this is decreed by God. And and of course it's, we have the mathematical miracle, as I said earlier, so you can follow this stuff safely and happily. Every law we have in the Quran, and statue it, and because it comes from the Lord of the universe, so you don't ever have to have any doubts about, okay, if this situation happened, then you wouldn't know what to do or something. But God informs the people. It's a blessing. O Prophet, we made lawful for you your wives to whom you have paid their due dowry, or what you already have, as granted to you by God. Also lawful for you in marriage are the daughters of your father's brothers, the daughters of your father's sisters, the daughters of your mother's brothers, the daughters of your mother's sisters, who have emigrated with you. Also, if a believing woman gave herself to the Prophet by forfeiting the dowry, the Prophet may marry her without a dowry if he so wishes. However, forfeiting the dowry applies only to the Prophet and not the other believers. We have decreed their rights in regard to their spouses, or what they already have. This is to spare you any embarrassment. God is forgiver, most merciful. So yeah, we have further enlightenment and clarification on this stuff. And it's important here too that the forfeiting of the dowry applies only to the Prophet, and not to the other believers. And that God, has already given, he's already decreed, the rights in regard to their spouses and stuff. God is the most wise too. So I mean, there's a good reason for everything. Subhanallah. 51. You may gently shun any one of them, and you may bring closer to you any one of them. If you reconcile with anyone you had estranged, you commit no error. In this way they will be pleased, they will have no grief, and will be content with what you equitably offer to all of them. God knows what is in your hearts. God is omniscient, clement. This is we're told that there's no error committed with reconciling, an estranged wife. In this way, it's good because they'll be pleased and they're not going to have, any grief or sadness, and they'll be content, and God knows what's in our hearts. He's omniscient and clement. So His word is the best, and His wisdom and guidance is the best. Beyond the categories described to you, you are enjoined from marrying other women. You are enjoined from marrying any other woman, nor can you substitute a new wife from the prohibited categories, no matter how much you admire their beauty. You must be content with those already made lawful to you. God is watcher over all things. So this is good, kind of a good example in another regard that the believing wife is far better than a disbelieving wife, because that would come from a prohibited category. And this would apply, or this would be a good, just intuitive knowledge and wisdom for anybody. That it doesn't matter how beautiful on the surface somebody is, if their heart is diseased and stuff, and they're bad people, and really they're the terrible people, because their soul is probably shrunken. If they're from a prohibited category, men or women. I mean, if they're idol worshiping and stuff, that's bad. So you don't want to compromise. Kind of like the verse is telling. You don't. Must be content with those made lawful for you. God is watchful, and so He's telling us these things that are good for us. And I think there's our footnote is for the next verse. And we can also see, like I said earlier, the traditional Muslims violate, so much of this stuff, and it's just they're the worst stewards for the religion, and in fact they should be vanguards for the religion. They set the worst examples, which is why their punishment is going to be so severe. So verse 53, etiquette. O you who believe, do not enter the prophets' homes unless you are given permission to eat, nor shall you force such an invitation in any manner. If you are invited, you may enter. When you finish eating, you shall leave. Do not engage him in lengthy conversations. This used to hurt the prophet, but he was too shy to tell you. But God does not shy away from the truth. If you have to ask his wives for something, ask them from behind a barrier. This is purer for your hearts and their hearts. You are not to hurt the messenger of God. You shall not marry his wives after him, for this would be a gross offense in the sight of God. Yes, so God is most wise. He's omniscient. So, he's telling the people around his prophet that how to God doesn't shy away from the truth. So even though the prophet is extremely kind and compassionate, there had to be people at the time who would violate, their stays and length of times, and of course, the prophet and the messengers too, they have their own lives and they have their own affairs to deal with, private affairs and stuff, and so you have to respect this. And naturally, a believer I mean, if they make a mistake, they can reform and repent for this. But I mean, naturally, I mean, none of us would even think about doing this, just barging into somebody's, house with that, that uninvited and stuff, especially, a messenger and prophet of God that has, such a big task and a specific task, as the messenger of the covenant said, so this is good. This is etiquette. That also, applies to, and then this stuff applies to, just general etiquette that applies to, relations with people and stuff. But this is very important too, because we're told here God doesn't shy away from the truth, and then also, we have. Further etiquette here, about asking his wives for something. You ask them from behind. Looks like a butterfly. You ask them from behind a barrier, and you should not marry his wives after him. For this would be a gross offense in the sight of God, and so these are commandments of, specifically these, for the time, and I mean this would apply. I would see for any messenger and prophet, especially. Naturally, you shouldn't even want. Believers aren't going to even have to. But I mean, of course, there's people that were around the prophets and messengers at the time that needed to be told this stuff. So God is fully aware of all things. And actually, let me read the footnote. We're almost done here. 2 more verses. Okay, footnote for verse 53. We are enjoined in 422. So Surah 422 says, we are enjoined in 422 from marrying women who were previously married to our fathers. Nor can the father marry the divorced wife as his son. That's in 423. This divine commandment preserves our respect for our fathers in their most private affairs. Similarly, the prophet was a father figure to the believers of his time. For the good of those believers, God enjoined them from marrying women who were previously married to the prophet. Marriage is a sacred and very private relationship, and the prophet's private life was better kept private. Yeah, so subhanallah. I mean, that's good. That's more clarification and stuff about this, and why it's it should be this way. Verse 54. Whether you declare anything or hide it, God is fully aware of all things. So this is this verse, looking at it, to me, it's a reminder to keep all things in our hearts and our minds and thoughts, so our actions and words can be good too, and if our jinn tries to debate with us or something, we can debate back with him and or her, and eventually, we'll come to some, at some point we'll come to some type of even ground. But I did have a question, I think, about this at one point, about, are we responsible for whispers from our jinn, if we're driving in something and he just tells or invites us to, or makes us think something, and but I mean, that's why, I think we can talk about that again, but I think that was answered, but that's why it's important to seek refuge in God. I mean, even the messenger said, seeking refuge in God 200 times a day, isn't enough, and he's, so he's emphasizing that, Satan's always after us, and so we have to be diligent, and it also, as worshiping God, it's helping us remember God. Anytime we say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, or the other mathematically coded one from Surah 23, or even Surah 113 and 114, That's part of making God your God, you know, and you know, because you're also bearing witness that only God can protect you, you know, and He has a system, you know, He sends His angels to protect you, subhanallah. So this is He gives us so many chances to remember Him. Okay, last verse, verse 55. The women may relax their dress code around their fathers, their sons, their brothers, the sons of their brothers, the sons of their sisters, the other women, and their female servants. They shall reverence God. God witnesses all things. You know, so we have, you know, more, you know, wisdom and for good reasons, you know, about, you know, where the women, as far as their dress code and stuff, you know, relaxing it. There's a reason, you know, this is okay, but you know, this is so we're told, you know, here it's these people that are within their families and stuff, you know, and of course their female servants, if they have those, they can relax their dress code, and God witnesses all things, you know. So with this said, brothers and sisters, if there's any comments or questions, please feel free.
Inshallah, thank you so much.
MashaAllah.
A good study, mashallah.
MashaAllah. Thank you, brother.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, I think mashallah, many great reminders in these verses are there, especially verse. I wanted to comment on verse 41 and 42. I mean, people have no idea like how important it is to remember God. They think that maybe they just remember God once or twice in a day, like they're very righteous, you know. But the thing is, obviously, we have to make God our God, as it says in the footnote. It's very important that God remains in our mind most of the day, and we have so many blessings from God to be thankful of, to help us remind Him of. We have our contact prayers, our religious practices, and we also have other opportunities throughout the day in which we can remember God, just by especially with the contact prayers, as we are anticipating the prayers too and planning for it. All that counts for us, thinking about our prayers, indirectly thinking about God, right? Because it is thinking about God because you're thinking about doing your obligations towards God. But also, as we go about our day, like we have to remind ourselves again and again that we have to think about God, like especially like when we're eating or doing anything, thinking about how that relates to God, like thinking about the blessings you have, like the example of the food, how the messenger of the covenant has described it. Like think about the color, the flavor, the taste that God has created, and what it took for this food to come to you. All the rain and everything, all the processes that it goes through that God has created. All these things can help us remember God as things happen in your life. Thinking about why these things are happening, how God is making them happen. If this is a good thing or a bad thing, all these things. As we're doing whatever it is we're thinking about in terms of our religion and our submission to God as things are happening around us, we'll count towards that. But even when those things are not happening, I mean, you can always commemorate God. I mean, we do have to grow our souls. I mean, our souls are part of God, and if our souls are not nourished, we will be, sad, and we will be obviously in Satan's kingdom most likely because we did not make God our God. I mean, if you're having problems in your life and you don't know what you did wrong, chances are that this is what you did wrong. That day, maybe think about how often you thought about God. Was God your God most of the day, or was there something else that was being your God? I mean, this is probably one of the most common things that we can find in this world as we live. I mean, we may perfect so many other things, but this thing obviously requires constant reminding ourselves every single day. So we have to remember that it's not just about doing the sin. It's also about who your God was. If you had some other God, I mean, you were committing idol worship. Of course, you can expect consequences, right? Especially because that is something so important. I mean, if God is not your God in your life in general, for most of your life, you're not even going to make it to paradise, right? We're not even going to make it to paradise if that's the case. So we have to work on this for sure and make it a priority to force our, mindset to be in that position. I mean, we see our lives will be so much better, when we try to practice that.
Subhanallah, brother. Totally true. Right.
Yeah, mashallah. Yeah, and like the Quran says, how it brings peace and or joy. I think maybe in Surah 13, there's a verse that it says, those who remember their Lord, or when they remember their Lord, their hearts rejoice, or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like for our own happiness too in this world. And
It's Surah 13, verse 28.
okay, yeah, most of verse
They are the
28.
ones whose hearts rejoice in remembering God. Absolutely, by remembering God, the hearts rejoice.
Rejoice, yes. Yeah, and so it's
Hmm.
yeah, you could be having like some issue or something, or like as a submitter, if there's a problem or a seemingly problem, you'll still be okay and be happy. Where like the people who neglect their souls, like you said, and fail to think about God and make God their God, they they're not happy, and they and you can see that something's missing in these people, and that they're still searching for something, and that it's for our benefit. Like you said, our soul is a part of God, and so every chance we get, um, like the verse says, frequently, and so that means, our contact prayers and stuff, which are the main meals of the soul. This is what's best for us. This is the real food and nutrition and health. For us. Yeah, mashallah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I even have alarms on my phone. I think I remember hearing Brother Jaffer had said something quite some time ago about that in one of the studies, and it helps me. I'll just hit snooze, and then like every several minutes for however long I keep hitting it. It's a reminder, you know, because I tell people like these tools are blessings from God, but we can see a lot of people. It's also with it comes responsibility to use it right. So if people are using computers or phones, like let's say to scam people, they're it's a way for I guess these people to be exposed. But I mean, you can use that same device or anything, any type of blessing from God, and be appreciative and use it. I mean, just the application we're using now. I mean, subhanAllah, it helps, remember our prayers, and especially the direction of the prayer, too. You can be anywhere, and along with the supplemental videos and stuff and audios, so this is all stuff that helps nourish the soul, and is good for us, good for our happiness, too.
So I really like verses 43 and 44, how God describes how He's so merciful towards the believers, that w- that He wants them to be guided, that He wants to help them. It's just us, people who want to insist on being miserable. But God wants us to choose the right path. He wants us all to be guided. He doesn't like people when they make the wrong decisions, but He has a system in place, and based on which everybody decides what they want. If they want to be on Satan's path, then they get Satan's path and they get misery, right? But people who are seeking God, I mean, He's there to help them with His angels, as it says in these verses, to guide these people out of darkness into the light. I mean, angels are helping the believers in so many ways, guarding them, helping them, delivering God's messages, protecting them, so many things. And so they're there helping the believers through everything in life too. I mean, that's another very important aspect of, I mean, life in this world is, if you want, who doesn't, who wouldn't want, some invisible giant, or giants, there by his side protecting him, or helping facilitate things in life for him. I mean, imagine like going on the freeway and or a highway, and being in a position where you could be hit, and then an angel comes in and saves you in some miraculous way. You want that type of protection more than anything. I mean, people pay money to get this worldly insurance, and they think it will protect them. But I mean, who doesn't want real invisible giants by their side, as powerful as they are, to be by their side and protect them from everything, right? I mean, we all would love that. And God has all of these blessings waiting for the believers. Just it's just up to us to do our part, for God to allow them for us. So we really have to make that effort. Try to go the extra mile to save ourselves. I mean, you could be having an exam and the angels could help you with your answers. There could be, I mean, so many things, right? Not just physical protection, but success in life,
They could
all
tell you
these
the
things.
answers.
Yeah.
Oh, subhanallah. Yeah.
Yeah, one time I I want to tell you, one time I went on I was doing some homework, right? And for school, and I asked for the answers from both like ChatGPT and Google's Gemini, multiple times, and they were giving me, both of them were giving me the same answer, but an answer that was different than the answer that was in my mind. And the answer that was in my mind was not based on anything. It was just, I felt it was just like a wild guess, but in a
Mhm.
way that I knew this is the right answer,
Uh huh.
right? And both Gemini and ChatGPT both kept giving me the same answer but the wrong answer. And in the end, I found out that the answer was the one that was in my mind.
Yeah. Maybe it was the jinns who were
Yeah,
trying to give you
so
the wrong answer through Gemini. They thought they
it's
knew, but then they.
right. Yeah, but I mean, imagine uh if this was before I even asked ChatGPT or Gemini like what the right
Uh
answer
huh.
was. Like I felt in my mind that this is gonna be the right answer, and then both of them kept like, and they're not just giving you the wrong answer. Like I mean, they're giving you the wrong answer with the explanation and justification and everything, with the math and all that, right?
Uh huh.
Behind it. And then it turns out, and then I was like, okay, well, maybe that's not the right answer. Maybe there's another answer, but it happened to be that particular one, out of the four or five choices. Subhanallah.
Subhanallah. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's so amazing just to think, and realize that that like you said, there's these invisible giants around us that we can't see. I mean, imagine if people get like amazed at just cool or interesting things on the world, or they might see something like in nature, which is good. But I mean, if you tell them that, or if they were to, I mean, they're gonna know that on when this world ends and stuff on the day of resurrection. But I mean, it's just a marvel. It's easy for God to
Yeah.
do, to create stuff like that, and yeah,
Hmm.
it's like real reassuring too. And like in the past, like even for me, I've thought before, like even before doing something, it's like wow, there's these extremely powerful entities, these angels that are watching me right now. So let me do good and be on my best behavior. Just to not. I mean, I know God is controlling everything, and that's the only one that is in charge of judgment and all that. But it helps me in that respect just to think about stuff like that. You know, and yeah, it's a blessing. They're the best. God is the best protector. People turn to insurance, and they think even with the fanciest or most expensive insurance that there's somehow, or they could have this OnStar type stuff, which is fine and all that, but nothing can, if you're meant to get in a wreck, I mean, nothing can stop you from getting in trouble if you're on the highway other than God, and you could send an angel to. So I mean, that's the best insurance. That's the only insurance believers should have and are happy with. You know, and that's for some people it's kind of a hurdle. I mean, even for non-submitters, or even, I mean, I think, I even heard something, I think it was from you, brother, that there's some factions in submission or that have deviated and they say insurance is okay, but it's not.
Hmm. Yeah, they think it's only life insurance
Yeah.
that's prohibited.
Yeah,
That
didn't they
and
say it's okay to get pet insurance or something?
yeah, I mean they have insurance for their pets and everything.
But I mean, if like, yeah, it's like, well, God, they should realize God is also taking care of their pets,
Mm.
and their kids. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean there's people in Canada who have insurance, even though the government provides them with basic coverage, right?
uh huh.
The people used to join our studies.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Mm.
And they have extra. I mean, they have extra insurance on top of that too, because they say that the government insurance doesn't cover your eyes. What if something happens to your eyes?
I mean, people, and insurance isn't a save all, and most of the time these companies don't even pay, won't even pay, and it's just a way for Satan to put fear in people, because that's exactly what it is, and we know from the Quran that it's the devil's system to instill fear in his subjects, and so we should put our trust in God, and then plus it's also, Satan will try to, he makes people poor, paying all this money. That's one of his objectives. He's going to keep people poor um, by this stuff.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, because it's amazing. God controls every single aspect of our lives. So if we have complete trust in that, it's a natural result that we will always want to be with God. We always want to be, on the side of the one who's controlling your whole life. Every outcome in your life is being controlled by God. So it would be very silly and stupid and ignorant of us not to be with God. And but most people, that's what most people do, right? They tend to do everything except be with God. And unless things are going really bad, for most of them, right, they turn to God only when like disaster comes and misery comes, which is still a moment for us to remember God, but it shouldn't be the only time we remember God. It should be every time, even when things are good, we should turn to God and thank God. And especially when things are bad, we should turn to God. And every other time, we should also turn to God, remember Him. You shouldn't get, because then you're just saying you just want either good times or bad times. You don't want to be normal, because if things are normal in your life and you're not going to remember God, then it's better for your life to not be normal.
Mashallah, brother. Yeah, it's true about the invisible giants too. I was watching a video um in the internet, and it was talking about about the cameramans. They said some type of caption on it, and it was just showing how the cameramans, like, sometimes they be recording things, and like a stunt happens and a car like barely misses them, or like they escape death just by a little bit, and all that. It's a blessing from God. and but they don't see it like that, sadly. But it's that's what it reminded me of that, and it's all from God, and it's actually amazing when you see like the car barely missed them. So yeah, it's amazing, subhanallah.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, in general, people are guarded in accordance with God's plan. Like if someone has 30 years to live, they're gonna live those 30 years no matter what happens. And if something else was probably gonna happen, obviously it won't happen. But they're not gonna see miracles, you know. But the believers are gonna see the miracles, right? I mean, that could just, like for example, I don't want to give the example of Trump, but that was old drama. But like I mean, all these other things happen. I mean, they happen for a reason, the way they happen. But but for the believers, they'll see when they reach certainty in life, they'll see miracles. Things will happen, and like I think the Messenger of the Covenant also gave an example on how, like, for example, they reached the airport and they realized that they forgot their bag or something. I hope I'm not butchering the story. But they realized they forgot their bag, and if they went back to get their bag, they would miss their flights. And then they just heard a sound behind them, and they looked back, and their bag was behind them. It's like the angels dropped the bag behind them.
Subhanallah, right, brother?
Hmm.
Yeah, brother Abdullah commented. He said Trump said first, quote unquote, God saved me. But after a while, he said that chart saved me. Yeah, exactly. Chart.
Wood chart.
Maybe it was during one of his, I don't know.
It was something he was looking at, brother. So he's saying like he looked at
Okay,
something. That's
okay, okay. Yeah, I mean they're calling him God, so.
Yeah, and he's going along with it too, which is worse. I
Hmm.
mean, he knows
Hmm.
it's just like he's taking advantage of these
Hmm.
of these people's
Hmm.
false hopes,
Yeah.
abusing it. And I mean, I'm not defending these really out there,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
people are beliefs, but it's not right. That I mean, he knows what
Hmm.
he's doing too. He's making stuff
Hmm.
up.
Are there any questions from anyone about the marriage laws? I know, like, some of these things can be a little bit difficult in the beginning for people to wrap their heads around when it comes to the laws of marriage and laws of divorce.
Yeah, but I got a comment on that. Like I'm just kind of curious actually because
Hmm.
in verse 50, like God is saying like the marriage um laws about the prophet, right? And
Hmm.
I think in the what is it, the Surah Women, um
Hmm.
Surah Women verse 23 is our laws, right, regarding marriage.
Yeah,
And
I mean the laws here also are also for everyone except about the forfeiting of the dowry, right? So those categories don't just apply to the prophet; they apply to everyone. Like you can't marry your nieces, for example, or uh, you know, the prohibited categories. Any of the prohibited categories. You can marry the daughters of your. You can't marry the daughters of your. You can marry the daughters of your mother's brothers, the daughters of your mother's sisters. So all of these categories apply to everyone. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's basically actually what I was kind of confused on.
Hmm.
Just yeah, like you said in the beginning, it is kind of confusing, you know. But
Hmm.
now it's clear, subhanallah, come be clear.
Okay.
Yeah, I also had a question. So the dowry, the forfeiting of the dowry, like even if you marry somebody and she wants to forfeit, she really can't then, right?
No, it's a requirement of the
It's a
marriage.
requirement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
So you should give the dowry based on whatever you can
right.
afford. Rich or poor. I mean, everyone has to. I mean, they can make adjustments to it. You know, accordingly, but they can't altogether forfeit dowry. Like, yeah,
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, God knows
yeah, and
best, man.
it's so bad actually. Like in the popular Mohammedan culture in all of these countries, the so-called Muslim countries, uh, a woman has to forfeit all her dowry if if she's the one who initiates the divorce. Automatically she doesn't get any dowry.
So she would lose it, and she could have rightfully
Yeah,
initiated it.
yeah. So they should make sure that she stays trapped,
Oh yeah,
in case she's being abused or whatever.
yeah.
So it's like it's like really just another abusive practice against women.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I didn't know that, but I mean, when I was reading this stuff, when some of the other stuff, I know that they don't follow any of this.
Hmm.
You really have to be really
Yeah.
evil because I mean it's spelled right here, like
Hmm.
plain as day,
Hmm.
like ABC 123.
Yeah. Hmm.
But
Yeah. Plus, in countries like Pakistan and India, the actual dowry, they call it meher, which is like a very nominal amount, like a laughable amount.
mm-hmm,
And the actual dowry, the hefty amount of stuff that they
mm-hmm.
actually call dowry, actually is brought and paid by the woman, or her parents.
Wait, so she has to pay a dowry?
Yeah, she has to bring dowry, lots of dowry,
Wow.
lots of material things,
Yeah.
lots of like material stuff like watch for the husband, like clothes, electronics, cars, money,
Wow.
things like that. It's ridiculous, and that's why like people will when they have daughters, obviously, I mean, they're sad, and then also
Mm-hmm.
when they have to get their daughters married, I mean, they have to you know pretty much lose a lot of all of their money by just giving them to dowry for their daughters.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah, because most of the time, I mean, obviously in those countries, I mean, these women will not have like they're not rich or anything, right? They don't have their own stuff,
Uh-huh.
or they're not independent, so their parents will be the ones, obviously. They're
Mm-hmm.
mostly married at a younger age while they might be in college or something, or just may have just barely finished even, but their parents are the ones who have to pay dowry,
Mm-hmm.
and thousands and thousands of dollars.
verse 52, kind of like you just said, this applies to everybody. It's enjoined from marrying idol worshippers or women from prohibited categories. You know, or the prohibited categories, like in a sense, like if they're make it, or if they're you could make it a stipulation, before marriage, like that they come to submission and worship God alone. But like if they're a pagan or something, or in that case, like you don't. Wouldn't even be wise to engage like a disbeliever.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, like it's for our own happiness and future peace. With
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the messenger said, when he stressed the importance of virginity and stuff, and you know. But yeah, you can, like the substituting of a new wife from the prohibited categories. That's something that like the traditional that's what the traditional Muslims do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were telling me the other day, like this, they walk around with like, what were you saying? Like there was like, yeah, I think the other day you were telling me some of the stuff that they do.
Uh, Sorry, I didn't get it.
Or no, just like with the women and stuff, like with marriage, like they'll marry like I think 3 or 4
Oh yeah,
women.
multiple wives. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, like you said, like the walk, they have multiple wives
Yeah.
and stuff, and none of them are even
Yeah.
enjoying marriage,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's just very shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because in this country, it's pretty frowned upon. Like if you were seen doing
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
you'll get some like crazy looks.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, and it's just normal over there. It's just normal. I think the men probably feel even proud as they walk in the streets.
hmm
You
Yeah, and you can, it just shows that they don't treat it as, anything sacred, or they don't actually care about it as it's meant to be. They're just doing it for
Mm-hmm.
their selfish reasons and stuff. What's for verse 40? It's Rabbi or Nabi means messenger,
Prophet,
prophet,
prophet.
prophet, right? Okay, so and what's the
Mm-hmm. Rasul.
Rasul? Okay, yeah. I get those two. I forgot. Yeah, you have a clear distinction here,
Mm-hmm.
throughout the Quran.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Are there any other comments or questions from anyone? All right. Yes. If there are no comments or questions from anyone, God willing, we can conclude our study. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Brother John, for leading the study and streaming it. God willing, our next English Quran study would be on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
MashaAllah. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.